So, one thing about it is I have been on my own since I was 18. So that's about 35 years now because I'm now 53. And so not only was I of legal age at 18, because that's what everybody say when you turn 18, you are an adult. But I also graduated high school at 18. I joined the military at 18, and I got married to my first husband at 18. And I moved out of my mom's house at 18. So all those things that signifies adulthood, I literally did it at 18, not knowing, what it meant. All I know is in my mind, I felt like I was checking the blocks on things, and maybe I was, and maybe I wasn't. I don't know. But in my mind, I was on the path and doing the things that I was supposed to do. But what I also know is that during those times, that there were things that I carried with me that I seen in my childhood, whether it was things that was morally or things that was ethically, things that was right, wrong, indifferent, it doesn't matter, right? It was just one of those things where I knew that, at 18, I carried some of those things with me. Relationships that were toxic because of what I seen, habits that people had that I picked up because because of what everybody else was doing, certain patterns that not necessarily align with who I was at that time or who I was trying to be or gonna be, but it was just what we did because it was just what you did, because you don't, they always say if you don't know better, you don't, until you know better, you don't do better. And so, this was in the, the 90s and things by the time I was 18. So it's not like we had the internet where you can Google stuff, right? The best we had was the Dewey Decimal System. If you wanted to learn something, you go to the library, you check out a book, and that's it. You figure things out from there, right? And so I know that I picked up certain things with me and I took them with me. And so one of the things about the military is that the military really allowed me to figure out the things that I needed to keep and the things that I needed to get rid of. And I mean, there are so many things that that I can think of, but for right now, one thing I wanted to talk about was some of the habits that we pick up, right? Just whatever. So my thing here is that my question is, as parents, sometimes we have to ask ourselves if we're taking accountability enough so that we're setting examples for our children, because sometimes our children are only going to do what we do a lot of times because they don't know nothing else, right? We're all that they have in a lot of cases, right? A lot of people don't go off and do things. So what you see around you is whatever. So the other day I was having a conversation with someone and they said that a habit that they picked up was a learned behavior. And I said, yeah, it was. And in my mind, it is a learned behavior. It definitely is a learned behavior, things that we see and do. Follow me through. However, when we become an adult, we make choices about what we want to keep and what we want to get rid of. Now, I'm not saying that, again, these are your life choices, whether you see them as good, bad, or indifferent. But if there are certain things that you're doing that doesn't align up with you, and now we are full-blown adults, you can no longer say that this is a learned behavior because it's long over the years that we were children. Remember, I said I was a child 35 years ago when I became 18. And I asked the question, I said, well, think about people like, the first people to do certain things, Barack Obama, or, just people who are out here doing things. How did they learn that behavior? I said, so why is it that people want to pick and choose the lower barrel behaviors or the lower hanging fruit behaviors to say, I'm doing it because they did it? No, do something like mess around here and be an example and be the person that cure cancer, or mess around here and be the first person to do this. In other words, there's a whole bunch of things out here that are learned behaviors that we take with us in our adulthood because we saw our parents do it, because we didn't know that we weren't supposed to do it. We thought it was the right thing to do, whether it was a coping skill or, toxic relationships and bad relationships. And I mean, think about it. As Gen Xers, as I'm a Gen Xer at 53, We grew up in the era of and live in color, right? And just a little bit about just things that we pick up on, and just I know for myself. We grew up in the era of and live in color. And so with 11 Color, I remember there was this skit on 11 Color where it was this couple that would fight. They would fight, right? And I think it was like Keenan Ivory Rains and Kim Waynes. I don't know if it was them or whatever, but they were playing husband and wife. It was something like that. But anyway, they would do things that would try to like take each other out. Like they would literally have these skits sometimes where they would be sitting there and they would literally try to take each other out. And then after the skit was over and before it was over, they would be like sitting there and they look like they half foot in the grave, half foot on earth. Because remember, they're trying to take each other out. They're husband and wives. And so, but then they'll say, but we still together. And that was it. They would say, and we still together. And that's what we grew up on. And so we grew up on thinking that things like that was normal. We grew up thinking that, at least I did, and where I'm from. And I'm from Detroit, if this is your first time here. I grew up thinking that these things was normal, and it was the Army that showed me that, and I'm grateful for that. But I'm not saying that everything that I learned, that I picked up from the Army, that it was one of those things where the Army solved my problems, or all of a sudden I joined the Army, or I went into, it was just me deciding what's good for me and what's not good for me, what I want for my life and what I don't want for my life when it comes to aligning where I'm at now, right? And I'm not saying that I am exactly where I want to be, because I don't think I ever want to get comfortable with being exactly where I want to be. I want to always shoot for something more, right? But what I will say is, I am so proud of the things that I'm overcoming, the things that I've continued to overcome, the things that I've shedded from my life. Because one thing I know about healing and about when you are reared in survival mode, one thing I know about when we are reared in survival mode, we tend to just do whatever we need to do in order to get through that, right? And it's not always good. It's not always whatever. And sometimes we make deals with the devil. Sometimes we rob Peter to pay Paul. Sometimes we have to doggone cut the nose to spite the face. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes we have to not let the left hand know what the right hand doing. I mean, all these little sayings, they came from somewhere. And it came from places like this of us trying to figure it out. But again, we have to figure out what we have to let go and what we have to keep. Because now we know better. Now we know that if we make deals with the devil, it's going to come back and bite us, right? Karma. We already know. We already know that, for every plus there's a negative. Like we already know. So we have to decide what aligns with us and what doesn't. We can't be going out here and, for example, I'm a single woman. I am a single woman. And because I am a single woman, which means I'm unmarried, I'm dating, and I'm not dating anybody specific, but I'm just like, I'm dating, right? So what I'm saying is that I can't be out here doing whatever and not being, whatever, right? Because if something happens to me, or my home is not protected, or if I'm not protected sexually or any kind of way, it's like, I know this. I know to protect myself. So it's like, okay, I can't be out here just doing whatever I want to do and just and thinking that it's going to be okay. No, I know better, so I do better, right? And so that's how we have to go about life. You know what I'm saying? It's just one of those things, when we know better, we do better. And so I know that at this point in my life, I'm just like, you know what? I'm figuring things out just like everybody else. But I know that I can't keep doing things and saying, well, oh my God, I didn't know that was going to happen. No, I knew. If I'm going out here doing these things and I'm making deals with devil and I'm robbing from Peter to pay Paul and I'm, cutting off my nose to spite my face, or I'm throwing a whole baby out with the bathwater, or whatever it is, right? Because we already know a lot of things are not cut and dry. However, just like I said in the beginning, we cannot make excuses for things. We can't keep saying, well, because of this. No, we are at the age where we know better. Like I know, listen, every Gen Xer, I think the youngest Gen Xer, I want to say the youngest Gen Xer should be 45 this year. 45 I want to say, because 45, 46, 15 years. It might be 15 years. It's 15 years span from each generation. So it's 65 to 80. So 65 to 80 is Gen Xers. And so because of that, all Gen Xers, so Yeah, 20, yeah, so they're about 45 now, 45, 46, right? And so the oldest of us are, 60 this year, or turning 60 if they haven't already turned 60, or maybe even 61, right? And so that's where we are. That's where we are now. And so it's one of those things where we can't keep doing things and thinking that we can't keep doing things and saying, well, I didn't know, or this is a learned behavior. Because when we look at our children, or we look at the next generation, what excuses do we want them to keep having? Because we have to know that what we're teaching them is effective when we're gone. Because if nature happens the way it's supposed to be, us parents will go first and then our children. And so we can't keep allowing our kids to have excuses, because we can't have excuses. So again, in order for us to be in alignment and do the things we do, we can't keep making excuses. What we learned when we was a kid and all that toxicity, we have to get rid of that stuff, honey, because that stuff is no longer serving us, honey. When I tell you it ain't serving us, baby. So listen, if this is your first time here, hello and welcome. This is for somebody because they told me to tell y'all, okay? So if this is your first time here, hello and welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to the neighborhood. This is Hood Parenting here on YouTube. And if this is your first time here, I am Yashika, affectionately known as Fairy Godmother, okay? And turn on your notifications and click that like button and share and subscribe, so when I post another video, you will be the first to know. All right, y'all? I'll catch y'all in the next video. Bye.